What we learned is the biggest risk factor to sex trafficking is just being a girl.
Tonight, why the stats on Indigenous women at risk only scratch the surface of the root causes.
These children just can't die in a system without anybody taking responsibility or being held accountable.
Seeking justice for kids who died in Ontario group homes.
Everybody had to leave that night, like it was even all the forestry. They just dropped everything and left.
And surviving wildfire in Telegraph Creek with just the clothes on their backs. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. The Winnipeg Police Service apologized to Indigenous women today at the National Inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in St. John's. Chief Danny Smythe says for too long the needs of Indigenous women have not been served. It was just one part of the day, the last day of public hearings for the inquiry. Commissioners will now hold 2 sessions to hear final submissions for those who have standing in the inquiry. This week, the inquiry has been hearing evidence on the sex trade and human trafficking. Today, one woman talked about how she escaped the sex trade with her life. Tom Fedario has more.
Because they wouldn't let him into the door where I was. Well, I was hiding in a closet filled with dirty clothes and needles, hiding from him.
Rachel Willen is describing how she got away from her pimp. It was one of just many harrowing stories Willen recounted from her life on the rough streets of Winnipeg. A life that started with sexual abuse, that led to 53 child services placements, then prostitution, drugs, and prison. A life that, with the help of her husband Matt, the Mitzi woman left a decade ago.
It doesn't take anybody, a rocket scientist, to know what it takes to surround a woman with love and have her exit on her own. And you know what? They find themselves because I did.
Diane Redsky has devoted the last 25 years of her life to combating sexual exploitation. The Ojibwe woman from Shoal Lake First Nation was part of a 2014 task force to end sex trafficking.
What we learned is the biggest risk factor to sex trafficking is just being a girl. Right off the bat, you're a girl, you are already at risk. The common recruitment age is 13, and I'll tell you something, when I first started doing this work almost 25 years ago, the average age was 16.
According to the RCMP, one female can make a trafficker up to $1,000 a day. The Winnipeg-based Red Sky also says that there's a specific market for vulnerable Indigenous women. She adds the longer a woman is sexually exploited, the shorter her life expectancy. But there is good news. She says Manitoba is a leader when it comes to fighting human trafficking, and praised the Winnipeg police, who today at the inquiry offered an apology.
That Indigenous women were not treated with the respect and dignity that they deserve. As the Chief of the Winnipeg Police Service, I offer my apologies for past conduct and policies that contributed to harming Indigenous women and girls.
Rachel Willen is also pleased with the progress made, but there's still a lot to do. She's recommending that Winnipeg create a 24-hour shelter, and as an outreach worker, she will continue to fight for women's rights.
I'm going to be honest, I love the work. I didn't even consider it work. It's a way of life.
Tom Fedario, APTN National News, St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Families of 12 children who died while in care in Ontario group homes between 2014 and 2017 are meeting in Thunder Bay. They're there to meet with the province's chief coroner about a report written about their children. It concluded that systems meant to help their children failed to meet their needs. APTN's Willow Fiddler tells us why some of the parents say they're not totally satisfied with what they heard.
It's Jeffrey Owen's first time in Thunder Bay. He and his wife Violet are eager to take pictures of the sleeping giant. They're feeling hopeful after a meeting with Ontario's chief coroner and the Anishinaabe Nation. The Owens are one of 4 families who came together to discuss the process and findings from a recent expert panel report. Under the direction of Ontario's chief coroner Dirk Heyer, the panel reviewed the circumstances and deaths of 12 children in care of the province between 2014 and 2017.
This was a review from a systemic point of view. So what is the system that is present and where can the system develop, grow, or in fact be put into place to help these children and youth who are in a high-risk situation.
Amy Owens was 13 when she died by suicide. Her father, Jeffrey, says she became suicidal when she was removed from her community and placed in a group home thousands of kilometers away.
There needs to be open channels of communication, with the children and with the families. There needs to be better care, better supervision. Because with our daughter, my daughter Amy Owen, she was supposed to be a 24/7 supervision, and they failed to provide that for her when she took her life.
Owen says it's important he provide a voice for his daughter Amy and the other 11 young people who died.
Stating that nobody was at fault with these children, and I totally disagree with that. Somebody's got to be held responsible, These children just can't die in a system without anybody taking responsibility or being held accountable.
Kanina Sue Turtle was 15 when she died by suicide in a group home. Despite their known suicidal behaviors and previous attempts, both Amy and Kanina had been left alone for a significant period of time when they died. Their parents have been asking why they were left alone since their deaths over a year ago.
So those questions can be answered individually to the parents. We don't, as a coroner system, hold people responsible. We identify facts and issues and bring those to the attention to those that are in a position to make change. But
Tikanagan Child and Family Services has yet to provide any answers to either Kanina or Amy's parents. Kanina's parents are now suing Tikanagan for $6 million. Owen says he was able to get things off his chest in the meeting and now hopes people will come together to make changes to the system that took the lives of 12 young people.
So they could have a voice and be heard? Because right now, with the child welfare system and with the government in Ottawa, there needs to be changes made, more resources and more fundings in the community for the youth.
The province has stated they are committed to act on the recommendations from the expert panel. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
Third annual Moosehide campaign kicked off today in Ottawa. The campaign was put together to raise awareness of violence against women and children. There was a march through the streets of downtown Ottawa that ended on Parliament Hill. Organizers have asked a number of high-profile officials to fast in honor of the campaign. Also, people participating in the campaign are encouraged to wear a piece of moosehide in support of the movement.
For us as sisters, I feel like it's really important to be here together to show other Indigenous young people and other girls and women that we're here to stand up against violence towards women and children and create real change and make sure that this country is safe for women and children.
The death of a Cree man on a Greyhound bus earlier this month is highlighting the lack of access to the healthcare system for Indigenous peoples. Now some leaders are appealing to the federal and provincial governments for an inquiry into the death of Abraham Donkey. Here's Brittany Hobson with more.
The death of 58-year-old Abraham Donkey is pushing leaders to call for change. Manitoba MP Nikki Ashton is appealing for a public inquiry into the death of Donkey, who died while traveling for medical care.
Systemic racism kills. Systemic underfunding kills. Abraham's family is seeking justice and to ensure this never happens again. Will the minister meet with Abraham's family? And will this government commission an inquiry into this inexcusable tragedy?
Donkey was from Nitchissawayachik Cree Nation. He boarded a Greyhound bus traveling from Thompson to Winnipeg on October 3rd. It's a 10-hour trip, traveling 750 kilometers. With a heart condition he did by himself. Passengers noticed Donkey became ill on the bus and he was rushed to a hospital outside of Winnipeg where he was pronounced deceased. The family says he asked for an escort but was denied.
I can assure all members that this Department of Indigenous Services is looking into the details of this matter. This affirms the need for improved health services designed, managed, and delivered by and for Indigenous communities. We will continue to work with partners to support Indigenous-led health transformation and improve health outcomes for Indigenous communities.
In Manitoba, NDP leader Wab Kinew echoed Ashton's call, saying an inquest would be able to provide some closure for the family.
If this man had had somebody there, maybe things would have gone differently. If he would have flown, maybe things would have gone differently. Maybe there was something in his treatment that could have been done differently. But in order for the family to get the answers that they need and for the rest of Manitobans to understand that our health care is serving everybody in this province, I think an inquest is an important step.
Kinew says the province's Northern Patient Transportation Program did not offer to pay for a flight or an escort. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Time to step aside for a quick break, but it's Thursday, and that means Todd Lamarand has your weekly political roundup. Here's a preview.
Hello, I'm Todd Lamarand, and here's what's coming up on Nation to Nation. United Nations report on climate change came with a dire warning. We only have 12 years to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half or face irreversible effects. The political panel of MPs continues the debate that began earlier this week in the House. As well, NDP MP Georgina Jollybaugh appeared before the Public Safety Committee. It's studying rural crime. Jollybaugh wanted to make sure the discussion isn't about blaming Indigenous youth. That's coming up right after the national news.
Here's a look at Friday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 7 and sunny in Halifax, 8 and rain for Fredericton. +1 with a rain-snow mix for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Cartwright. Rain-snow mix for Nain with a high of 0. 14 and sunny in Montreal, rain, and 13 for Val-d'Or. In Toronto, 14 above, under the sun, 15 and sunny in Ottawa. 11 and rain for Thunder Bay and Timmins, rain, and 9 for Wawa. In northern Manitoba, -3 and snow for Puckatawagan, Thompson. In Winnipeg, a high of 9 with rain, the same for Gimli and Dauphin, +9 and sunny for Brandon. 10 above under the sun for Regina and Estevan, 12 above for North Battleford. -4 with snow in Uranium City, -5 in Stony Rapids. Welcome back. On August 5th, the entire community of Telegraph Creek, British Columbia, was evacuated due to a massive wildfire, including the firefighters. APTN's Lori Hamlin visited the devastated town that's still under evacuation.
Yeah, the fire, it burnt like all over.
Driving to Telegraph Creek down Highway 51 through what is known as the Grand Canyon of the Stikine is a dangerous but beautiful 2-hour ride. Telegraph Creek is the home of 200 people from Tahltan First Nation. Because the town is still under evacuation, APTN News needed a special permit and escort to enter.
I'll let them know you're coming in.
Okay, so probably a couple hours maybe.
Chief Rick McLean of Tahltan First Nation had his partner Fanny Vance take us in. She was born in Telegraph. After getting to know us a little, Fanny opened up about the night everyone was forced to evacuate.
That was like the most horrifying ride of my life. Like it was just shaking, you know, and just like want to talk to somebody and, you know, can't and oh.
Vance manages River Song, the Tahltan Band's cafe and lodge. It was built during the gold rush and sits along the Stikine River. While many community members had already evacuated, Fanny stayed back to help feed and house some of the first firefighters.
You just sat down, we just served them their hamburger, and Rick come running in. He's like, we gotta get out of here now. The fire's coming down the creek, you know, drop everything and let's go. You know, he could have tears in his eyes and the fear. I lost it, I panicked.
Fanny jumped into her truck with her dog and fled.
You come up the creek from down the River Song and it's just red, the sky, like it looked like, you know, at night it looks like it's a lot closer than it was, but it was just, and I just started vibrating. Everybody had to leave that night, like it was, even all the forestry, they just dropped everything and left.
The fire that devastated Telegraph Creek was initially sparked by lightning. High winds and drought-like conditions fueled the fire, merging one wildfire with others, and it quickly blazed through 120,000 hectares. 21 homes were destroyed, and many of the homes left standing are uninhabitable due to fire and smoke damage. Fanny's family was hit hard. It burned structures on her sister's property. Another sister lost her home, and her parents' house is also gone.
That was their home. Everything everything they ever had was in there. Sentimental value stuff, and that was also like our family get-togethers, and it was like our gathering place, just like everybody's mom and dad. It's horrible, but I know that it's a new beginning and stuff. It's not gonna, we still have each other, and we don't have the place, but we could always make a new one.
Although Fanny and the entire community are still grieving, they haven't lost hope and plan to return as soon as they can.
It's home, right? It's peaceful and rugged and rustic, but it's who we are. It's where we come from. We belong to this land here.
Lori Hamlin, APTN National News, Telegraph Creek.
Our APTN Investigates reporter Holly Moore went to British Columbia with a question. Why have 5 women gone missing within an hour's drive of one another in the Okanagan Valley? In Dark Valley, she and Rob Smith came away with few answers and more questions. Here's a preview of Dark Valley.
Now it feels evil. It crushes your faith in what is out there.
Caitlin Potts, 27, Ashley Simpson, 32, Deanna Wirtz, 46, Nicole Bell, 31, disappeared, and Tracy Jeaneroux, 18, found buried on this farm, owned by the Sagmoyen family.
So yeah, we can pull in here, and this is a good lookout over the Sagmoyen farm.
Yeah, we should get out and take a look. Yeah.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's a beautiful, quiet area. The area that Tracy was found, we can see from this spot.
Oh, where?
If you go back toward that tree line, you can see a fence on the left there, and there's a shady spot right back in that corner.
I see.
That's where she was.
That's where Tracy.
Holly Moore will join us tomorrow to talk about this episode, and you'll be able to watch the entire episode tomorrow on APTN Investigates right after the APTN National News. Time for another quick break, and then we'll show you what former National Chief just received an honorary doctorate. Here's the rest of Friday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 13 under the sun for Grand Prairie, 10 and sunny in Peace River, 14 for Lethbridge, 11 in Edmonton and Red Deer. On the west coast, 16 for Victoria, Penticton and Kamloops, plus 8 in Fort Nelson, rain snow mix, and 7 for Dease Lake. In the Yukon, 8 and rain for Whitehorse, 0 with rain and snow in Rock River. Plus 6 and rain for Fort Liard and Trout Lake, rain, and plus 2 in Norman Wells, 3 above for Wrigley, minus 11 in Sax Harbor, minus 3 in Fort McPherson, Inuvik, and Colville Lake. Plus 1 with snow in Arviette and Chesterfield, 0 in Whale Cove, minus 12 under the sun in Cambridge Bay, minus 11 for Clyde River, minus 14 for Igloolik. Welcome back. Ovid Mercredi is among those receiving an honorary doctorate from the University of Manitoba. As Daryl Stranger reports, the former national chief was just one of a number of graduating students receiving their degrees.
It's graduation time at the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg. Among this year's 1,500 graduates getting the hallowed parchments, a former national chief and an educator. Ovid Mercredi earned a law degree from the U of M in 1977. He helped establish the Indigenous Students Association while he was there, the first group like it in Canada. He went on to be elected national chief of the Assembly of First Nations twice.
Getting an education doesn't have to mean that you lose yourself as an Indigenous man or woman. So I want people to walk away with the idea that graduating from law school or from medicine or from the School of Psychology doesn't mean that they're turning their backs on their people. It just simply means that they're taking some tools, some knowledge to advance our people.
This is Angela Lavasser's third trip to the U of M's graduation podium. She's a past president of the Aboriginal Students Association and the first Indigenous person to sit on the university's Board of Governors. She was pregnant during her first degree program. Amazingly, she went into labor on a Friday night, gave birth over the weekend, and was back in class Monday morning with her new baby.
It's important to me. It was instilled in me by my mother, my aunts and uncles. They're all people who value education, that I shouldn't miss class and I had to do as well as I could.
Lavasser talked about her late aunt Edith Linklater. Edith passed away last month, but not before finishing her Bachelor of Education degree. The university granted her degree posthumously, something that is very rare at the school. An empty chair was left on the convocation floor where she would have sat.
I know that everyone in Nelson House is very proud of her, too. And they know that she worked very hard even though she battled cancer.
These three stories exemplify the determination and passion that's needed to graduate, and they hope to inspire Indigenous people after them, just like so many before them have done. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A man known as the Lost Canadian received his citizenship at a ceremony in Montreal. Mike Van E was born and raised in the Netherlands, but always felt a connection to Canada. Today, he took the oath to become a Canadian citizen. His grandfather, Walter May Jackie, was from the Sagamak First Nation in Ontario. He fought in Europe in World War II. Mike was denied citizenship 2 years ago, but was finally granted citizenship under ministerial discretion.
Real Canadian now, so I can go to the pub and watch hockey. No, just kidding. I'm very excited. For my feeling, I think the circle is round. I can look for myself now. You know, home is where your heart is sometimes, and now I can know. I have to find out where my heart is and belongs. So it's very important for me, and I feel very excited.
And that's all the time we have for tonight. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. Stick around. Nation to Nation with Todd Lamarand is next. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.